Sorry, I have the third video over here, so I'm going to have to put this up as three separate videos. Hopefully we won't have any more interruptions, but it is what it is. Anyway, so segmenters, just go back to slide 16. Segmenters aim at one or more homogeneous segments and try to develop a different marketing mix for each segment. Segmenters try to satisfy customers very well. Segmenting may produce bigger sales if the segmenter can capture a large share of a smaller market segment. Many consumers are willing to pay more in order to satisfy their needs more precisely. So marketers will see that. Segmenting or combining depends on the firm's resources, competition in the various segments, similarity of customers, attitudes, and buying behavior. Profits is often the balancing point because profit potentially dictates how specialized a marketing mix can be and how worthwhile it is. In slide 17, we have relation of potential target market dimensions to marketing strategy decision areas. So as an overview, let's look at the bottom over here, summary overview. Market segmentation forces a marketing manager to decide which product market dimensions might be useful for planning marketing strategies. The dimensions should help guide marketing mix planning. In other words, what are the dimensions? What are the attributes that you're looking to hit over here? So we may be looking at the behavioral needs and attitudes, which can influence product decisions. Features such as packaging, product line assortment. In other words, you have, let's say, the minivan. Honda has a minivan, as the Odyssey, right? But the Odyssey has different levels. You have your base level, and then you have your high level, with the sunroof and the leather seats and all the other fancy trimmings. So Honda has to make a decision: how deep do they want to go in their assortment? And also their branding. What are they going to call each product line? What are they going to call it? How are they going to brand it? How are they going to position it? As well as promotion decisions. What do potential customers need to know about a firm and its product? And what appeals should be used? On the other hand, the urgency to get a need satisfied and the willingness to shop influences decisions about the place, like where products are distributed and price. For example, how much of a premium, meaning how much money are people willing to shell out to pay to address the needs for urgency. Geographic location and other demographic characteristics can affect the size of target markets by suggesting the economic potential. Place would be basically, let me just move the zoom bar out of the way. Place is where should products be made available, and promotion, where and to whom will promotion efforts be addressed. We move on to slide number 18. Possible dimensions for segmenting. All right. We're going to look at basically the segmenting dimensions guide marketing mix planning. In other words, which of the 4 P's I'm going to focus on. Market segmentation forces marketing managers to decide which product market dimensions might be useful for planning marketing strategies. A product market may be described by behavioral segmentation. In other words, what behaviors or how do people behave with certain attributes. So one of the things that are the benefits sought tend to be situation specific. For example, a car buyer could be looking for good gas mileage or the ability to seat 7 people. You look at people's thoughts. Buyers may be grouped by whether they have favorable or unfavorable attitudes or beliefs about the brand or product category. You could also have something segmented based on rate of use. Some customers may be heavy, medium, light, or even non-users. And you see that, for example, you go to Home Depot and you go to the section where they have tools and you have drills, power drills. You have a plethora of different kinds of power drills, but they're not all the same. A high-end Milwaukee drill is not the same as your Black & Decker. And the people buying the Black & Decker are vastly different than the people using the high-end Milwaukee drill. The high-end Milwaukee drill is for a serious contractor, somebody who uses it day in and day out. They need to make sure that it's going to last a long time. The cheap Black & Decker is for the weekend warrior who needs to just tighten a few screws here and there, fix a doorknob, do a light project. So somebody whose rate of use is very little or limited, is not done, often on a daily basis, and it's not used for hours on end, will be wasting money if they buy a high-end product. And the same is true, let's say, using musical instruments. Somebody who buys their first guitar I mean, unless they're fabulously rich and money's not an object, is not going to plunk down $1,000 on a guitar. Why? Because they don't even know if they're serious yet and what their rate of use is. Are they going to be playing it 4 or 5 hours a day and being really serious? No, they're going to probably start out and they want to make sure they're not spending a lot. So they want something decent, sounds decent, comfortable, and knock it around, and till they become more serious. And as they progress in their, as their guitar prowess grows, as their skills grow, they're going to then upgrade different levels of equipment, higher and higher, to make it more up their alley. Purchase relationship. Customers could be segmented by whether they have an ongoing relationship, intermittent use, or a bad relationship. Brand familiarity might vary from insisting on a brand to non-recognition or rejection. And if somebody's not recognizing or rejecting your brand, you got to figure out what is it that's causing that kind of reaction. Also, the kinds of shopping that happen refers to whether buyers do comparison shopping or perhaps buy on convenience basis. And even within a store, you're going to see those two different sentiments. They'll have a budget aisle, or you have a flyer in a CVS that show you all the different things that you could buy on sale, and then you have the impulse products right up front by the cashier, where you're able to just, oh yeah, I'm just going to buy this silly magazine over here. I'm going to buy this, Time Life Year in Review. I'm going to have that impulse. I got to buy that. I'm going to buy the eyeglass screw kit that's going to basically give me the ability to fix my glasses on the spot. So those are not going to be priced, as a budget. They're going to be priced basically so that people have a convenience and able to buy what they need. And you're going to have that different types of shopping within the same store. Buyers might use different problem-solving approaches and could be grouped in this way. Or buyers may have different information needs. Some customers want a lot of information while others don't. And it really depends on what they're doing. If you're going to go buy paper clips or pencils, you don't need a lot of information about that. Paper clips and pencils, you're just going to get them. You don't need a lot of information. But if I'm going to go buy a laptop, or I'm going to buy a new cell phone, or I'm going to spend money on a new printer, yes, I will need more information. Now we look at, excuse me. Now we look at geographic dimensions for segmenting consumer markets. The region of the world, a country, region within a country, and the size of the city. Geographic dimensions are often used for segmentation. There may be different languages or laws in different countries, or a business may only be located in a certain geography. For example, also, like in Pittsburgh, the steel industries locate themselves in certain areas for logistics purposes. Regions of the world, a country, for example, North America versus Europe, or New Zealand versus Japan. The region within the country, for example, within the U.S., the Rocky Mountain region, Southeast or Northeast, may provide a basis for segmentation because people living in different parts of the country have different needs, right? Somebody living in Alaska will have much different needs than somebody living in the Sun Belt. And the size of a city may also be useful for segmentation, especially if you're looking for large numbers of certain kinds of people. You will have to look for the size of the city that contain those kinds of people. Demographic dimensions for market segmentation, consumer markets. In addition to behavioral and geographic dimensions, also demographic, which is the construct of the population. We look at income, right? Gender and age provides another demographic. Family size, family life cycle, where you are. Are you newly married? Do you have your first baby? Are you already in your late 40s, early 50s and marrying kids off? Are you an empty nester? Right? Needs, for example, customer needs could be economic, functional, or psychological. We look at your occupation. People in different levels of occupation, blue collar, white collar, have different needs. For example, professional, technical managers, officials, and proprietors, people that own stores. Your level of education, even if you're wealthy, but your level of education is going to impact your buying and what you look at. Social class, for example, lower, upper, lower middle, lower upper, or upper class. And your ethnicity, Asian, African American, Hispanic, etc. Each one, we want to be inclusive, obviously. You don't want to, God forbid, in any way exclude anybody based on their ethnicity, but you need to understand ethnicity, not to, God forbid, use it as a way of discriminating, but just the opposite. use it as a basis for better suiting the needs. People coming from different cultures, different racial constructs, are going to have different perspectives and different views. So many times people of a certain ethnicity are going to read certain newspapers or certain magazines. Like, for example, there's a magazine called Ebony, which is geared to the African American market. That's not something that's negative. That's the opposite. It's very good because African Americans may be looking for certain things, certain perspectives, and that magazine gives it to them. They'll be interested in that. But that doesn't mean that that's the only thing they read. You can have an African American individual reading the New York Times and Ebony. They could be reading Sports Illustrated and Ebony. They could be reading Reader's Digest and Ebony. But you use it as a way of gauging who you're trying to target. So, in a sense, when we profile people for target marketing, we're not doing it in a way where we're trying to discriminate. God forbid. We're trying to do it in a way to better serve their needs. And when you focus on something like that, we want to make your shopping experience better. Then of course that's not offensive in any way, unless of course you want to make it offensive. Well, then that's up to you. Segmenting business markets, we look at the kinds of relationships, the type of customer, and as mentioned before, the demographics, how customers will use the product, and the type of buying situation. Let's look at the type of buying situation down below. Some characteristics of the buying situation might include the number of people involved in the purchase, who are the influencers, or whether the buying process is centralized or decentralized. Is there one person making the decision, or is it individuals being given the ability to make decisions? Purchasing methods refers to factors like whether the buyer uses bids, right? We're talking about a B2B kind of venue where you bid things out, vendor analysis, e-commerce websites, or other methods of buying. Slide 23 is finding the relevant segmenting dimensions. Basically, several factors affect the specificity and use of determining and qualifying dimensions in segmenting markets. Determining dimensions may be very specific, depending on whether the marketer is concerned with a general product type or a specific brand. Determining dimensions may change over time because needs may change or because competitors enter the market and, of course, try to satisfy those needs. Qualifying dimensions are important too because they help identify the core features. So qualifying dimensions, anything that help you identify the core features that must be offered, such as safety, comfort. Those are examples of core features to everyone in a product market. Within a broad product market, there may also be different dimensions for different submarkets that are not included here because they're specific to the type of market you're trying to satisfy. We move on to slide 27. Just to better define the difference between qualifying and determining dimensions. Qualifying dimensions are those relevant to including customer type in a product market. Helps identify the core features that must be offered to everyone in a product market based on that customer type. Determining dimensions are those that actually affect the customer's purchase of a specific product or brand in product market, can be further segmented into groups. And again, in that endeavor, in trying to do that, you're going to be utilizing the marketing mix as your variables to see will that increase, decrease, or keep sales at a plateaued level. Slide 28, there are ethical issues in selecting segmenting dimensions. Yes, there's exploitation. For example, going into a poor neighborhood and marketing sugary drinks, for example. Many would view that as exploitation. A marketer would say, well, based on our market research, people living in poorer neighborhoods gravitate towards more sugary foods, and if we're going to sell it, but then you have the other side telling you, wait a minute, they do that because it's the cheapest food available, and because they are underprivileged, they're not given the same resources as everyone else. They have no choice. So, and I see this. Go to East New York, for example, which is unfortunately a challenged area where you have a lot of problems there. How many farmers markets do you see there? How many places do you see that you're going to get fresh vegetables? You're going to see a lot of bodegos, a lot of places you get candy, cigarette. You'll see like a luncheonette. Candy, cigarettes, and sweets. I mean, that's a good recipe for diabetes and hypertension. So you could make the argument that, hey, because it's a poor neighborhood and we don't care about poor people, so we're gonna give them, poor meal choices, because that's what we want to do to exploit those people. So we want to be able to squeeze any of the resources out of them, and we don't really care about their health. And that's not a far-fetched argument. There are people have condemned companies and stores for not opening in these challenged neighborhoods because you're trying to continue that underprivileged status. You want to make, and that's why if somebody wants to open an organic store or a store that sells healthy food in a poor neighborhood, they may get funding from a grant because, hey, you're offering something to people that are underprivileged that they don't have access to. Now you're offering them access, or opening up a healthcare clinic, a real clinic, a good clinic, a clinic that has modernized equipment, not stuff from the 1950s. Also, issues with segmenting, it creates unnecessary wants, especially during the holiday season, where people many times are forced, and again, everyone can make their own choices, and you can make the argument that, hey, you're an adult, don't cave into peer pressure, be assertive, be very discerning, but unfortunately, unnecessary wants equal unnecessary purchases, and of course, harm if we're segmenting based, we're selling cigarettes and alcohol and things that, of course, are unhealthy and bad for you. Slide 29, more sophisticated techniques may help in segmenting, clustering, basically trying to find similar patterns within sets of data, and customer relationship management. Sophisticated modeling techniques can predict the type of products or services an individual customer might want based on the information stored in the database. An example of this would be somebody who goes to a fancy hotel that has multiple branches and they use them often. So eventually they can build a profile and have your favorite drink in the fridge waiting for you, your favorite magazine waiting for you, different things that will make your life better. And in a sense, the algorithms that we see in Amazon and YouTube are really a part of the CRM, where, let's say, use Amazon as an example, where you've bought, you bought guitar strings, you bought a guitar book, and you bought yourself a bunch of picks. So then all of a sudden you're going to see ads. People like you also purchase guitar amplifiers, guitar cases, guitar books. And the reason they're doing that, obviously, is to make money, but in a sense trying to make you feel that, hey, we're also targeting you based on your, we want to make a relationship with you. We want to make sure that you get what you really need. Differentiation of positioning takes the customer's point of view. Differentiation is how the marketer tries to distinguish her or his offering in the marketplace, how it is set apart from the competition. What really matters is that the consumer perceives the marketer's product to be different. Positioning is how customers think, excuse me, sorry about that, how customers think about proposed and or present brands in the market, and marketing research techniques are designed to collect information about consumers' perceptions and determine the differences among competing products in the minds of the consumer. And again, in the minds of the consumer, you're trying to basically, appeal to their minds and basically satisfy them and hopefully correctly anticipate what they need and how to position yourself in that greater marketplace to satisfy those needs. And of course, marketing research is designed to collect information about consumer perceptions and determine differences among competing products in the minds of your consumer. Firms often use promotion to help position how a marketing mix target customer-specific needs. Here we have a perceptual map representing positioning. So let's look at soap, for example. The size of the circle represents its share of the market, and the positioning of where they are shows you what attributes they're going for. Are they going more towards the high moisture, like, for example, like number 7, whatever number 7 is obviously its main goal is high moisturizing. It doesn't mean it doesn't smell good, but that's not really where it's trying to go. Then you have, for example, number 1, you have it more towards deodorizing, right, because it's closer to the deodorant. You have life buoy and dial. It doesn't mean they don't have any moisturizing in it, but it's not really meant for that. So this diagram shows the output of a computer program that does positioning analysis. 2 attributes of soap that account for the greatest differences in consumer perceptions: the degree to which the soap is a deodorant soap, the degree to which the soap is a moisturizing soap. The closer that any 2 dots are to each other, the more similar those brands are in the minds of consumers, and the greater the competition is in that area. Each segment may have its own preferences. The circles refer to the size of the market attracted to the combination of attributes, and as a result, that's their position in the market. Positioning may also lead to combining instead of segmenting. If a firm can successfully appeal to several segments with the same product, because why not? It's cheaper that way for them. Therefore, positioning studies can be a part of a broader analysis because they identify important attributes of the product offerings in a market, identify what offerings are likely to appeal to segments, and provide a basis for changing the marketing mix should a marketer decide to position a product, and helps them calibrate themselves. Okay, great. We just finished this chapter.